Welcome to PBA Radio. It's Chris Guns. My guest on this segment is Jamel Herring, the team captain of Team USA, the light welterweight representer in London. He's back and he's ready to talk. Let's get him on the line. Jamel Herring, back from London. Tell me about it, man. How'd it go?
Bit frustrating, frustrating times, but I'm glad to at least see that our ladies did good. But I'm just getting over it now. But for the past few weeks, I've just been a little aggravated with everything that's going on. Especially, I've been down with my performance, but it's still light at the end of the tunnel. So I'm just back in the gym and working, just to better myself really and just prepare for the future.
Yeah, can never stop improving no matter what. And what was it like when you got off the plane in London and you saw the way they had the city decorated for the Olympics? What did you think?
The first thing I say, I was just amazed because it was something I've never seen before in my life anywhere. I was just surprised how I was just amazed with just how the village was put together alone, and all the countries. And for once in a while, I was just amazed just to see athletes, not just from other countries, but athletes of different sports. So it was just an eye opener. It was a great time. It was a great experience.
Yeah. Who did you get to know besides boxers? Did you intermingle with them?
I actually ran into the U.S. basketball team. I spoke with Serena Williams. Spoke with my sister also, Venus. I see him, Michael Phelps. Spoke to him a few times. I actually went to go see him swim for the last time when he won gold in the relay. Actually, I seen Usain Bolt. Said a few words with him also. So it was great. It was a great experience. Just being amongst other athletes.
What are you thinking when you see Usain Bolt run? When you see that? Those legs are crazy.
We're all, I was going for Team USA, but it was kind of hard to go, root against Usain Bolt, or even think that anybody can even match or compare to him. So it was crazy, but it was exciting to see him compete, and especially for our U.S. athletes, they did their best out there on the track also.
Yeah, and you met Amir Khan. You went to his gym in Bolton. What'd you think of it? What'd you think of it?
Amir, he's a humble guy, especially, when he had his crushing defeat at the time, and 3 days later, he came out to speak to us, and still put on a smile. That just shows his true character as a champion. He was a great guy, and I actually ran into Amir 3 or 4 times after that. Mm-hmm. Every time he see me, he was, humble enough to stop, talk, hey, how you doing? Asking me what I'm doing next in boxing, asking if anybody was interested in me. And we were just, talking, just having a nice, friendly conversation, So I got a lot of respect for Amir.
Yeah, after his loss, that took a lot of class to do that.
Yeah, a lot of class. He could have easily just stayed away from the public and just basically brushed us off. But he came out there. He invited us out to the media conference. With the whole team was out there with him, and he just he kept a smile. And he was just real honest with himself, and he just told he's going to bounce back. He said it's like he said in the interviews. People think he should retire, but he said he's still young, and that's just crazy. But people even think that. But he's not going to really concentrate on it. He just feels that he just needs a little bit more work. He's going to come back harder.
Yeah.
That's when hearing that basically helped me also with my defeat. It really bothered me. And it was we was getting a lot of press. I wasn't so much worried about just the one loss. I was more upset at the fact when all the losses accumulated all together, and then the USA team as a whole was getting hit. That's what really bothered me. So but being around Amir, we actually talked after my fight. He basically set me to a different mindset and how to really take things in, and then that's kind of helped me out on since my own defeat.
Yeah, and that's why you're the team captain. And who are you closest to on the team?
I'm actually real close to Marcus Brown. Not just not just because we're both from New York, but me and Marcus were close last year during the World Training Camp, and we just basically come from basically that same environment, and we easily can adapt. I learned a lot from Rashid. Rashid was also a great help, and even like with him also, it's a man who gave up, a lot of his, a big part of his life to keep trying for that Olympic medal. When people were saying that, he didn't care or whatever, that was just crazy. Like, if he didn't care, why, give up that much? You could have easily just went to pro, but why give up that much time in your life?
Yeah.
He had a dream, he had a goal. He wanted to bring back that medal for his mother. Came up short. He just, even he didn't show it in front of the TV and the media or whatever, but like deep down, he was really hurt. But he just saying, I guess it wasn't. He told me like, I guess it wasn't meant to be. So I'm just gonna focus and move on to the next level, and that's how I started looking at things.
Yep.
Myself.
Yeah, and it was kind of particularly heartbreaking for Rashid Warren because he is the only man who really stuck around for 3 Olympics.
Yeah.
It's sad. I wish he did at least medaled somewhat. wish he got some kind of medal. But you guys were a close team in general, and how hard was it to get ready for the Olympics without a real coach for 4 weeks before the game?
It actually hit us more mentally, because like for the most part, we all stayed in shape, and just looking at your interview with Coach Bashir, we all had the talent, we all had great guys with great talent, but we just didn't have enough time and experience on that level. The Olympics is obviously the toughest competition you ever get, even tougher than what you may see as a pro boxer. And 2 weeks before, 2 weeks of camp in Colorado and 2 weeks in Baltimore isn't gonna cut it. It's some of these, we know, like the Cubans and the Ukraine and the Russians, they doing dual meets and constantly boxing all year round just to prepare for the Olympics. We didn't even get it. We didn't even get some of that. We probably maybe got like the World Championships and then the Continental qualifiers, and that was it. And then, like I said, we had a problem with the whole staff and everything. So it really kind of messed us up mentally, because we was actually getting kind of worried, like, hey, when are we actually gonna get this staff? Because it's getting close to that time we about to take off for London. So. But we try to do our best. But you see, due to this how the system was, it shows that we need help. Our program needs a lot of help. And I'm not mad or I'm not bitter towards anybody, but I just pray and hope that our next generation, 2016 team, actually pulls off what we try to pull off this time around. But at the same time, it all starts with the program. The program needs to be rebuilt from the ground up, I believe.
Yeah. What do you think we need to compete at that level?
We gotta start getting more support behind our program in terms of like funding, because that was the main thing that I've been hearing for the past few years, was the funding to get us out there to those international dual meets. Like, we need that experience. Like, we got you know yourself. We all know that there's great talent in the country, and we got a lot of athletes that's on the Olympic team that dominated inside their country, but when it's time to go, outside of America to where look at other styles. Well, people would think that we ain't like we just started boxing or something, but we don't get enough help, and in terms of that international competition.
Yeah, that's vital to been there and to actually know you can do it. It does something when you proved it to yourself already, not just wondering and knowing you can, but you gotta really know you can by having done it. It's hard to.
People on it, it wasn't the greatest showcase for some of us at the Olympics, but people I felt was don't see the hard work you gotta put in. Get to the Olympics. It wasn't like how it was back in the day when maybe you had won the Olympic trials and okay, you was an Olympian. No, now today's world, you went that. And you got to qualify, which you got to get international, which means you got to get to an international experience before the Olympics, and that even so that wasn't enough experience to help us, do well in the Olympics. But like I said, people the main thing I'm getting at is people don't realize all the hard work and sacrifices we had to make as a whole to get there. It wasn't like it was handed to us, but it was like for me in particular, it was a long year. With that spot as an Olympian, and it was just like, and that's why I was so upset. Like, with my bout, it was just in the blink of an eye, not like 3 rounds, 9 minutes. It was gone. It was over. That was it.
Yeah, and not only it's not only relegated to boxing, but all the games really. But the officiating in the Olympics, what in boxing, how did that strike you? The terrible officiating.
Like I said before in past conversations, like it was just for my bout alone. Yeah, I give credit to my opponent. I felt he was just a better man, and from what I was told afterwards, he has plenty of international experience, but I felt the bout should have been a little closer than what it was, especially after the first round. But I don't make no excuses. I just learn from it. But I just feel on that part I'm going to is that with the officiating was just, to me, it was just ridiculous.
Totally.
And it just hurt me. It was hard for me being the team captain afterwards when I seen what happened with the first bout with the Arrow's second bout against India. That was just, to me, it was just ridiculous. And it was just like, if you like, he clear to me, and a lot of us out there, it's like he clearly dominated this kid. He put out everything. He gave it everything, and it's like we just felt that before it got overturned, it was just sad that it was just stealing these kids' dreams. You don't know how hard these guys put in the work to get here, and you just basically just take away their dream in a blink of an eye like that. And it was just that's what hurt the most. It's like, I know AIBA knows what we had to do to get here, because they, for one, they make all the rules and the qualifiers to get there. It's like, for them to do that, that's what kind of hurt me. And just for a while, I was just kind of upset with the international program. But I try to remain content as much as possible, because I see myself as a role model, and there's always somebody watching what you're doing and what you're saying. And there's kids that's coming up now. They ask me for advice all the time that want to get to 2016. So I didn't want to be out there constantly bashing, AIBA and everything, and discouraging these kids who are right now working hard to get there. So I just try to keep a line inside. But I just felt that with all the judging, not even just us, when I watched the fight with the 69-kilo Frenchman also. I thought he dominated his opponent, which was from Ukraine, and they took it from him too.
Yeah.
So it was just crazy.
Yep, it was terrible. One of the worst I ever saw. And what team impressed you the most?
I give credit to Cuba, honestly. They had a lot of Cuba. I like the way how they operate. It just seems like they go in there with their game plan and they stick to it. They never fold under pressure, like especially the Cuban in my weight class who had 1 gold. I've known him for a while. He's a good guy. I was actually happy for him, and he really impressed me. He came back in the finals and beat a kid that beat him day 1 at last year's World Championships. So that shows you his determination, and will to go out there and go get that medal. And and not just him, the 32-pounder, 64 kilo, he was great to watch. I felt that the Cuban that Joseph Diaz had fought, I thought Joseph just the fight should have been closer, but that guy he fought he had good talent. So I was just basically impressed with the Cuban team. But last few Olympics, we all know the Cubans always come out there and do a great showing. So it's been nothing new lately. It's like, honestly, to me, it's like the Cubans are basically where they're at, where we used to be at.
Yep, true, and that's what they do. That's what their whole boxing world consists of, really. So they put it all into the Olympics.
Yeah.
And do you remember the name of the guy who beat you? Is it gonna stay with you forever, or you just let it go?
I remember the whole face and everything, but the name it throws me off. His name always throws me off.
Yeah. What do you have to say about your own team members? Let's go through them one by one. Just say something quick about all of them. Describe them to me or something. Start with Rashi Warren.
Rashi, great leader. He actually chose for me to lead beside him for that team, because he believed in me for what I could bring to the table. He's just a great guy. Great experience. I actually plan on going to camp with him next month to make our pro debuts. So we'll still be sticking together. But Rashid, he's just a great guy, and he has a big heart, and he really loves the sport. No matter what anybody says, he takes it seriously.
Yeah, clearly making 3 Olympics. You got to be dedicated.
Yeah.
Got to want it. And what about Joseph Diaz?
Joseph Diaz, that's like Joseph, he's always gonna be close to me because he's just like he's always been humble. He's a real humble kid. And he's always down to earth. And to me, he's like a little brother to me. He was the youngest. He's the youngest male on the team, but he had a big heart. He went out every time he went out, even in sparring. He went out there. He gave it his all. Even after the defeat, you seen it on his face. He wasn't a bitter guy. He was respectful. He was humble, and he had sportsmanship. And he's a classy guy. You can't do nothing but respect that.
Yeah. And Jose Ramirez.
Jose, that's another one that's close to me because Jose, we talk all the time. And Jose, he's seen where I came from and to where I'm at now. He tells everybody that even though it's still, in my opinion, I never, I give credit to what credit's due. I feel some guys is better on that team than me. But Jose will tell anybody out there that he feels that I came a long way and I improved a lot since just last year alone. I feel like Jose is gonna be a great champion, and he has a great style, especially for the pros. Mm-hmm. And I just wish him nothing but success in the future.
A lot of people are calling him like another De La Hoya, maybe.
Yeah.
And what about Errol Spence?
Oh, Errol? Yeah, Errol. I love Errol. I like a lot from him also. To me, he's like a powerhouse. He has no quit in him at all. And he's just hungry. He's like he's not too much upset about what happened in the Olympics. He's just ready to move on also, and I feel like he's another guy who's going to definitely be a world champion somewhere. So I'm almost going to keep touch with him because he made it sure before we left that he said no matter what he wants to keep in touch with everybody. So Earl's he's a great guy. He told me if I ever stop talking to him, he see me, it's going to be a problem. Earl's a good guy.
Did you get a lot of sparring in with him over the time?
No, not really. I didn't really. I sparred with Earl. Last time I sparred Earl was maybe about a year ago. We actually didn't spar these past few training camps, but we had, I guess, because we had plenty of training partners anyway. Mm-hmm. But yeah, we didn't spar. But when I did spar that one time, it was an eye opener. He showed me some things because I'm so used to just boxing and picking opponents apart. But he's a dog. He just keeps coming and coming. Yeah. I learned a lot from him. Every time I had a problem, because I always be the type of guy who didn't like fighting on the inside until I started talking with Errol. And he told me sometimes you're not always gonna box. You can't always box your opponent. Sometimes you got to make it a fight. So I started working with him, and I just started picking up little things from him, little at a time. I'm grateful for having people like that. To take their time out, to help me. Even after he qualified, he wasn't the type of guy well, you're on your own. If you make it there, I'll see you when you get there. But, after he qualified, he still will keep contact with me. And, I'm grateful to have people like that.
Yeah. What about Terrell Gaucher?
Oh, Terrell?
Don't hear much about Terrell, really.
Terrell, he's a quiet guy. He's a quiet guy. Mm-hmm. But he's a hard worker. He's been through just in his personal life, he's been through a lot of ups and downs, and he keeps his main motivation is his daughter. He keeps his daughter close to his heart. He's been through it. He's came a long way, and I feel that sometimes he doesn't even get the credit that he deserves, but he showed it. He showed a lot of class and a lot of heart. And just his 2 fights at the Olympics, and I wish him all the best success also, and I hope to see him too in the future. But yeah, Terrell, he's a quiet guy, but once you get to know him, he's good. He's good all around. He's a good guy to get to know.
And Marcus Brown.
Oh, like I said earlier, that's like my little big brother.
When did you first meet? When did you first meet him?
I know Mark for years, but since I was in the military, we didn't really, speak like that.
Mm-hmm.
But we really got close, like I said, last year's camp at the World Championships, and we just clicked. Like, I knew his trainer knew me, so, we knew each other's circles, but we just had never had that time to actually bond and click.
Mm-hmm.
But once we did, like, if you go on, like, anyone, on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, you'll always see majority of the pictures that we have is always me and him together. We always stuck together, and he helped me get through a lot. And him being especially not just boxing, but we talk and we try to keep everything like family oriented. Like when he has a problem, he'll just once in out of the blue, he'll give me a call. I'll call him up and we'll just we'll have a conversation, and we always remain close throughout this whole year. And he wants me to come out there to New York soon to come train with him, and I have no problem with that. Like when I go to New York, I go from Long Island way out to Staten Island, and we'll just hang out, talk, just have a good time.
Maybe you could headline some shows together as pros someday.
Yeah, cool. Maybe something.
How about Michael Hunter?
Mike is a great guy. Mike is another one. He was around. He was around that era of the 2018. We all know he didn't qualify, but he could have easily another one could have just went pro.
Mm-hmm.
He wanted not just to be an Olympian, but he wanted to basically do something special in his division.
Yeah.
And can't take nothing from him for that. Even now, he's still determined. Like he always tells me that his main goal now in the pros, he wants to beat Leon Spinks' record. Leon Spinks, he became a world champion in 7 fights.
Yeah.
So Mike is he's determined. He's determined. He wants to basically continue the legacy that his father had left before his father passed away.
Mm-hmm.
So I just hope. I just like these other ones. I just want to see do great things, especially in his division. We know, last decade or so, Europeans been basically dominating because he's going heavyweight. So with the heavyweight, been dominated by the Europeans. But I feel that now is a time where the Klitschko's are almost on their way out. So we're gonna have that new generation, and I hope he's part of that that flock that can bring back at least some heavyweight titles back to America.
Yeah, he's big enough. Yeah, he's a big guy.
And he's athletic. He's very athletic for that size as well.
Yeah. Is he like 6'3", 6'4"? Big guy. And what about a bigger guy, Dominic Brazil?
Dominic, yeah. Dominic, I give him so much credit because he's only been doing this for 3 years.
Yeah.
And then they always say the average, the average time span for being an Olympic boxer is usually 8 to 11. He's basically a quarter of that time span. But Dom, I feel he has a lot of time, but not age-wise, but he still has a lot of to improve on. And I believe he has a lot of potential to actually do it.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll just see with Dom. But Dom's a great guy. He was, even after everything went down, he still kept a big heart. He's real polite, well mannered, and he still has that will. I mean, he's talking about going pro. I don't know if he's gonna go pro or stick around amateur for a while. But he's really determined to just stick around with boxing. So we'll just have to see what Dominic does from here on out.
I talked to him, and I think he's going pro.
Yeah.
So after your loss, you stuck around, but you were there for your team. And what would you think of Clarissa's performance, winning gold?
Oh, Clarissa, that little girl, she's a beast.
Yeah.
Has the most, I mean, you could see it in every one of her fights, and just in like the fire in her eyes. She was determined to go out there and get that medal. She wasn't letting nothing hold her back from getting that medal, and that's what I loved about her. Even from time we got in camp, day one, she always put in her mindset, I'm going to do what I got to do to get my medal. I'm going to get my medal. And she said she wasn't settling for not just any medal. She was going for gold, and she got it.
She got it.
I'm very proud of her. You know, especially, I'm just honored just to say that I was on the team when we had the first female middleweight gold medalist, and she was only 17 years old.
Yeah.
She has a lot. She has a lot. A lot of things coming up. There, a lot of big things going to be coming up in her future. And she knows that women's boxing isn't as big right now in the pro side, but that's another one of her goals, and I'm going to be behind her 100%. And I feel that she can actually bring back a lot of attention back to women's boxing. Because everywhere I go, people still talking about her fights from the Olympics. So I feel like she can actually be one of those role models and leaders to bring women's boxing back up to a higher place than what it was.
Yeah, and over the next couple of years, I'm sure she'll grow into that lady who brings people into the sport, and people want to watch her and look around. She's only 17 still. And how about Marlon Esparza? I expected her to win gold because I saw her fight with Christina Cruz, and Christina Cruz is really impressive too. So I really expected her to go all the way.
Another good friend of mine, also a New York native.
Mm-hmm.
But Marlon, I actually just spoke to her today. About an hour ago. She hits me up to check up on me, but Marlene, I took her to win gold as well, also because I just seen she was going in there giving her all, sparring with just the guys. She didn't care. She didn't care who you was in front of her. Like if you was there, if you got a pair of gloves on, that's all. She just seen you as an opponent. She didn't care about your gender, male, female. She didn't care about none of that. And she was hungry. She's been doing this. She's been doing this since she was a little girl, like forever. Now as she was saying, and I know at one point in time she said she was going to just after the Olympics, win, lose, or draw. She said she was going to retire from boxing. And I, 2 times I thought that at one point I asked her if she really wanted to do this, but she explained that just that her body was just wearing down, and she loved the sport, but she feels time to do something new. But as of recently, I believe she said she's making it. She's deciding to come back in 2016. So we'll see what happens from there. But Marlene, she's a good person, real good girl. And we're always gonna be close here on out. And she told me first. She told me I better invite her to my pro debut. So I'll be seeing her around more often in the future.
Yeah. I'd be shocked if she didn't turn pro at some point. I think she just needed a break.
That's what I'm saying. I told her I think she need a break. You've been boxing constantly for a long time.
Yeah.
And when you work so hard and you come up short, of course, the first thing you should say, I just need to quit and do something else. But I think she, like I said, same thing. I think she just needed a break.
Yeah, she had a fight even to get to the Olympics. She had to have that fight with Christina Cruz, and that's not easy, So she was probably tired before she even got to the Olympics.
Yeah.
And how do you think that we'll remember? Hold on one sec. How do you think that that Queen Underwood took not winning and not bringing home any medal? Do you think she was actually vocal?
No, it hurt her. It hurt her a lot. It hurt her.
Yeah, I felt bad for Queen.
I mean, basically, America, we all know Queen's story. We all know what Queen's been through in her life alone, her personal life alone. And we've seen how hard it was just for her to even get to the Olympics. It's been a rough year for her. And for her to go back home, empty-handed, was just it was just heartbreaking for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Even in the Olympics, she took maybe like a few days to herself. Mm-hmm. And then she came back around. And when she came back around, she was the queen that everyone loved. Like she was joking, she was laughing, she was smiling. She was there, like, even like I'm gonna never forget one day. It was a day when the medal ceremony.
Mm-hmm.
Marlene was a little bit upset about just getting bronze, and because it hurt Marlene. Like I just feel like the women they took it. I believe honestly they took it a lot harder than the men did. The women they really wanted that gold. I'm not saying that none of us wanted it, but I really feel the women wanted it just as bad or more, and they showed it. So when Marlene came up short and was before she was gonna get her bronze medal, Queen was the one that actually was cheering her up. And you would think it should be the opposite. Like this is a girl who Queen has been through this a lot of ups and downs, and she's going home with nothing. But Queen, as a leader, she was talking to Marlene like, girl, you should be proud of yourself. You made history.
Yeah.
You did something that a lot of women still wish they could have done. You're going home with a medal, and you're an Olympian. So she basically cheered Marlene up, and I just sat back and just watched everything that was going on, and that I was really I was really happy. Like that showed Queen's true character as a person and as a leader, and I'm glad that I'm glad that she actually came back around that time.
Yeah.
So I just like I said, she's the one. I just hope. Like I asked her what she was going to do, if she was going to go pro or not. But she told me like same thing. Like she just needs a break, and she'll just she'll decide what she's going to do in a few weeks. But right now she's just taking a break and just enjoying life.
Yeah. If you're the captain of the men's team, she could have been captain of the female team if they did that. But you're the captain of all the teams, all the sexes. Jamel Herring, I appreciate your time, man. I'm glad to see you, and wish you luck in the pros. Do you know when you're gonna turn pro? You know when your first fight?
Right now, I'm looking towards October.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to get it in October, but I'll keep you posted.
Yeah,
I'll keep you posted out there. But it was always great. It was always good speaking to you. I'm glad that you had me on.
All right, appreciate your time, Jamel. Thanks a lot, Jamel Herring, everybody.